Hello, I'm just making a small video here to Deirdre and her husband James and their little boy Prior. I had your parents out, must have been July last year, about a year ago on a tour. We had a good day. Nearly every day I'm out, I have a good day. I encounter a lot of people. I've done I have no idea how many tours I've done. Well over 1,000 tours anyway. Some I remember quite well. A surprising number I remember quite well. Obviously, I remember your parents and your brother and his wife. And if my memory serves me right, a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old. The little one was crying quite a bit. That has no bearing or influence on me whatsoever when I'm doing a tour. Just goes in one ear and out the others. You meet all sorts of situations. So children acting up or getting tired or whatever. Nothing bothers me with a tour because I've encountered them all. But we had a great day out. And your parents kindly invited me down to Ron Paul's birthday party because I was an advocate of Ron Paul. Didn't tell them that till the end of the day. And your brother says, too bad you didn't tell us that in the morning. We'd have a better day than what we did have. We had a good day nonetheless. But I was invited down to Ron Paul's birthday party, and I was going across country with my son. So I says, okay, I'll make a little detour. And we went down, and we were in Texas a few days. We were on the road. By the time I got down there, and I was on the road for a week, so I wasn't looking my best. But what was important to me was I spent time with my son, so wasn't really worried about looking anything at all. I was going to Texas, and we're continuing on west. And we're staying in his customized RV 4-wheel drive thing, a super duper thing that he purchased out in Oregon for quite a bit of money. But anyway, I was sitting at the table and I was listening to you and talking to you, and I was made somewhat sad. The reason I was made sad was that I was listening to a person that was more Irish than people in Ireland are themselves. And even though I think your dad said that your family had been in Texas for 6 generations, you still were more Irish, and it was so important to your life that you held your Irish culture so closely, despite the fact that you were generations removed from Ireland at all. The people in Ireland, the Irish people in Ireland are getting to be a minority. They're like the Wampanoag Indians, but they don't know it yet. But the people in Ireland don't want to be Irish at all. It's not cool to be Irish. About 15 to 20 years ago, they wanted to be Europeans. And nowadays they want to be global citizens. It's like the zombie apocalypse back there. These people are so completely communized and brainwashed that you really have to experience it. I couldn't even describe it. You'd have to experience it yourself. Close friends of my own, completely and utterly bonkers. So that is my reality. And there I was sitting down, listening to you and talking to you and explaining Irish expressions. And it had an impact on me. Anyway, that was August the 9th, I think it was. And you were to have a baby the following March. So I put it into my little memory bank of a brain. I must check around March. or whatever to see how all things went. The thing is, though, I was a sick man and I wasn't good at all. And when I came back from that trip, going on the trip, I knew that when I was coming back from the trip, I was going to be facing 44 days of radiation and a lot of stuff afterwards as well. So that was okay. So about April, or maybe even May, I think I sent your mother a text or whatever, but I hadn't communicated now in months, and I didn't get any reply back in it. But it was still, I was still wondering, how did you get on? You know what I mean? And in the fullness of time, I sent your dad a text as well. And I learned, to make a very long story short, that his life is very busy. Everybody's life is very busy. And he's in the political fight for his life. Not for his life, of his life. Difference there. Hopefully he will win. It'll be the crowning achievement in his life, in a political sense. In his life, in the fuller sense, you and your siblings and the grandchildren, they, of course, are your parents' crowning achievement. It's simple as that. But anyway, there's a custom at home in Ireland that when a new baby is born, you cross their hand palm with silver. It could be a sixpenny bit, which is a coin of 6 pence. A tanner, Tanner, we used to call it a tanner. There was different coins, a tanner, a half crown, a crown, 2 shillings was a florin, and a 12 old pence was a shilling in old money. Anyway, they were silver coins. So you would give a new baby a sixpenny piece. You give their parents. It was a tradition. It was a nice tradition. So that's exactly what I'm going to do for your baby as well. Now, I have to tell you the story of the legend of Tír na nÓg, which is the Irish for land of the young. The ancient warrior grouping or band, B-A-N-D, back in ancient times was the Fianna. That's just the Irish for the warriors. Not to be confused with the warriors in the movie in New York. They were different warriors. These, of course, were supermen and legends. And their leader was a fellow called Finn McCool, which is simply Finn, the son of Cool. He, as a young boy, was in the employment of another fellow whose lifelong ambition was to catch a salmon from the River Boyne. And this salmon was a magical salmon. And he who ate first of the salmon would be granted infinite knowledge. So it was called the salmon of knowledge. So he finally caught the salmon anyway, and he gave Finn the job of cooking the salmon on a spit. And he's a young boy, so he's going to be cooking the salmon. So salmon is coming along nicely, and what happened? The fish got too hot or whatever, but there arose on the side of the fish we'll call it a blister, where its skin sort of bust out. And Finn did not want to present the salmon with his thing on the side of it, so he just used his finger to poke it to burst it. And when he did so, of course the salmon was very hot. So he instinctively put his burdened finger, into his mouth to cool it off. And then, of course, he was the first one to eat of the salmon. And it was him, the kid, that got the knowledge. And that was Finn McCool. And he was the leader of the Fianna. All well. His son was a fellow called Oisín, O-I-S, I father, which is a long or accented I in O-I-S, I father in. Anyway, one day they are out hunting and having a good time for themselves, when along on a beautiful horse comes a beautiful young lady, and her name was Niamh. That was one of the names you asked me about. Niamh. MH or BH is pronounced V, so it's pronounced Niamh in Irish. Anyway, Niamh was from a land across the ocean called Tír the land of the young, a mythical place where nobody grew old and time had no meaning whatsoever. And she had a proposition for Oisín, and the proposition was that he would accompany her back to Tír marry her, and live happily forever after. And needless to say, as a young man laying eyes on this beautiful woman, he thought that was the best idea since sliced bread. Now, at that time, they didn't have sliced bread, so it was an even better idea. Okay? So up he got on the horse behind her, as it should be in a horse's situation. And they then went across the ocean to Tír. Now, 300 years passed, but because time has no meaning in the land of the young, Tír, he didn't realize 300 years went back. He thought it was only a few years, a couple of years or whatever. But he did get a longing to see his buddies, the Fianna. So he implored Niamh to give him the horse to go across the sea back to Ireland again for a weekend or whatever. She was very concerned about this plan, of course. But after he promised that he would not set foot on the soil of Ireland, she relented, and she gave him the horse, and off he went. When he landed in Ireland anyway, he was asking anybody he met, had they seen the Fianna, and they would reply to him truthfully that the Fianna is only a legend from hundreds of years ago. They may not even have existed, but they were supermen, and now they're gone. And of course, he didn't like this answer at all. But he continued on. As he travelled along, he came across 3 men trying to remove a large boulder from the field, from the soil, in order to make it suitable for tillage. Okay? And, well, he's wondering to himself, why don't he just lift it up and move it over? No big deal, because he's a superman. But these are just mere mortals, and it's a very large boulder. So he decides to do his little good deed for the day. And that would be to move the boulder for them. And when he's about to get off the horse, he realizes he had made the promise not to get off the horse. And he says to himself, wow, that was a close one. But I'd still like to do the good deed. So he's going to reach over in the saddle and lift up the rock, which he can do quite easily. And the horse can hold the weight as well quite easily, because the horse is a super horse as well. But what could not hold the weight is the strap holding the saddle upon the horse. And that snapped. And Oisín fell to the ground. And once he touched the ground, he reverted to his true being, which was a 300-plus-year-old man. And now his organs are failing, and he's only got hours to live. But his luck was in that day, because who happened to come along the scene but St. Patrick, who was in the process of converting the pagan Irish to Christianity. And he comes across this old-timer who's about to die, of course. So he will give him the word of God in a sense. And Oisin will convert to Christianity, and then he kicks the bucket and he dies, and off to heaven he goes. That is more or less the happy ending of the story. In Ireland, stories don't really have happy endings, but that's as close as you might get to a happy ending. So he's gone to heaven. The other Fianna, 300 years ago, we don't know where they went, but I guess they didn't go to heaven anyway. Now, that is the story of Tír na nÓg. It's a very important legend in Irish folklore. So 6 years ago, I decided to make a coin on the story of Tír na nÓg. Okay? I'm going to show you the coin. Now, this is all messed up because it reverses the writing. So I'm going to finish the video here and I'm going to start another one just to describe the coin. Otherwise, it'll be back to front.